Chapter 17, First to Last. After the shock from our meeting with the state president had worn off a bit, I entered battle mode once again. By that point, I had somehow managed to survive 3 AC chemo treatments, which left me with only 1 more to go. My doctor had been right when he told me that each treatment would take me down a few more notches. Not only was I moving a bit slower, I was also feeling a lot more nauseated and yucky. Quote from my journal: I have my last red devil treatment tomorrow. 1 hurdle is almost complete, but I think I may be hitting a wall here. I feel like I'm slowly losing momentum and steam. I've been able to be strong enough through most of this process, but now I am tired. I told Mark the other day that I just want to sleep for the next 6 months. Sleeping is a great way to ignore your problems. End quote. Day 84 brought my last AC treatment. Good riddance. Sayonara. Bye-bye. As I prepared to say goodbye to this devil chemo, I thought about the differences between the first and the last treatment. With my first AC treatment, my number 1 thought was, yes, finally, I can start doing something to kill this cancer. I had a tiny idea of what to expect, but no way of knowing exactly how the chemo would affect my body. I was extremely anxious because of all the unknowns. When I saw the bright red chemo, it did not bother me, it intrigued me. I watched the entire administration process from start to finish. Mark took pictures of me, a smiling me, showing off my port, the chemo, and everything else. Look at me, everyone. I'm having poison pumped into my body. Isn't it great? I felt like a champion afterwards, at least for a few days until the poison started ravaging my body. By treatment number 4, I was defeated. My spirit was deflated. There were no pictures, no smiling, no intrigue about the neon chemo, only loathing. In the days leading up to that last treatment, I had panic attacks just thinking about walking through the cancer center's doors. The cancer center had a certain smell, and although it was not a bad smell, it triggered horror in my mind. I could not get it out of my nostrils. The smell assaulted my nose the moment I opened the doors, and I hated it. I previously mentioned that after they administered the chemo, my port had to be flushed out with saline. That process left a strange, salty, and metallic taste at the back of my throat. It lingered there for hours after treatment, and I loathed it. As I braced myself to face AC number 4, I flip-flopped back and forth between 2 emotions, pure joy and devastating misery. I felt joyful because it would be my last red devil treatment, and I would be free of its reign of terror. However, I was also in misery thinking about all that was in store for me once I made it home from the treatment. When day 84 finally arrived, I was very pensive. I just wanted to get it over with quickly. Again, I could not look at the chemo or any part of the process. My limp body sagged in the chemo recliner. The only time I spoke was when someone asked me a question. I could not wait to get out of there, get to my house, and crawl into my bed. With the previous treatments, I could usually plan on the side effects waiting to kick in for at least a day, sometimes 2. That was not the case with the last treatment. As I dragged myself to bed, I felt like I had been run over by a truck, a very big truck. I downed my nausea pills like they were Cadbury mini eggs. Cadbury mini eggs. Even though they had pumped me full of anti-nausea meds before administering the chemo. I'd finally reached the point where the thought of throwing up sounded nice. Maybe if I throw up, I will actually feel better, I thought to myself. That night was horrid. After tossing and turning for over an hour, I was finally able to find a position, lying on my stomach with my face buried in my pillow, that allowed me to quell the nausea. Please, oh please, just let me throw up, I thought. If I could just throw up once, maybe that familiar and dreaded ache in my belly will leave. Sadly, I did not throw up. I just lay there and willed myself to think of something else, anything else. A beautiful sandy beach, the warm summer sun, or Disneyland with my kids. Those images swam around in my brain as I finally drifted off to sleep. It was a fitful night, as I had to wake up a few times to take more nausea pills. I woke up the next morning feeling as though I had never gone to sleep in the first place. My goal for the day was just to make it through preschool. After that, and the little excursion of getting my Neulasta shot, I planned to fumble my way back into my bed and stay there for the rest of the afternoon. The following day, a Friday, I lounged around most of the morning. By afternoon, I was able to drag myself out of the house to go to the grocery store with Mark. I barely made it through that experience. My feet felt like they were filled with lead, making it impossible for me to move any faster than a snail. The nerves in my back were highly sensitive to touch, and even the simple act of wearing a shirt created intense pain. Since I couldn't run around topless, I just had to grit my teeth and bear the searing pain. By the time Saturday rolled around, my back nerves had calmed down a bit, but my energy level was still hanging right around the 0 mark. Because of my lack of energy, I started to wonder if my doctor would recommend a blood transfusion. That created fear and frustration. I was fearful only because I had never had a transfusion, and the unknown aspects of that were scary. The frustration came because if I did need a transfusion, it would just be one more thing to add to my already full plate. Quote from my journal. I'm ready for my get out of jail free card now. The past few days have not been very good. The last treatment has hit me like a ton of bricks, and I am down and out for the count. I am in the I give up mode. I'm trying hard not to be, but I've reached the end of one rope, and I'm wondering where to find the next one to grab onto. I know there are still so many prayers being said on my behalf, and I'm trying to cling to them as much as I can. But I'm hitting a brick wall, and it's going to take some time to work my way over the top. End quote. The feelings of self-pity and depression hung thick in the air. As much as I tried to feel happy that my red devil treatments were done, I just couldn't muster any joy. I could not stop myself from thinking about the next 4 rounds of chemo and the side effects that it would bring. I was already experiencing so many unpleasant side effects that it was hard to imagine going through any more. The nausea, fatigue, and achiness were a constant presence. Then there was the hair loss, of course, and it was cold walking around without any hair. Plus, the nerves in my head were almost as agitated as the nerves in my back. That made wearing a scarf or hat or anything else a painful experience. Fortunately, I had not lost my eyebrows or eyelashes yet. The bald issue I was dealing with, but I was really worried about losing those precious features. Well, maybe the eyebrows would not be such a big deal. I could always pencil those on and maybe even have some fun with it. As in, uh-oh, Mommy has her angry eyebrows on today, watch out. However, the eyelashes presented a bigger problem. I would not be able to wear fake eyelashes because of the risk of infection. The thought of walking around without any eyelashes really freaked me out. I could just picture myself bald, hunched over from pain, and no eyebrows or eyelashes. It would not be a good look for me. Aside from still having to deal with those side effects, the new chemo would bring with it a host of other goodies, such as losing finger and toenails, added muscle aches, possibly more nausea and fatigue, and neuropathy, numbness and pain from nerve damage. How could I possibly deal with more? I imagined that by the time I was through with all the chemo, I was going to be a big puddle of des on the floor. With all the side effects I was dealing with, the one that bothered me the most was not anything physical. Rather, it was seeing the pain and worry in my kids' faces. It was watching them come to my bedside with tears in their eyes. I will never be able to erase those images from my mind. This creature writhing about in pain was not their mommy. Their mom always helped them with homework, activities, practicing, and finding the perfect after-school snack. Now she was in bed most of the afternoon, or shuffling around the house, barely able to move. I hated seeing the pain and sorrow in their eyes, knowing that there was nothing I could do to fix it. My hope was that time would heal all wounds, and that they would not be too scarred emotionally from this ordeal. Quote from my journal. Well, 90 days have gone by. How do I feel 90 days into this cancer journey? Exhausted. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, you name it. I'm all tapped out. That makes me think of root beer, and that sounds really good right about now. Weird. The past few days have been really low for me. I haven't felt like doing much, and so I haven't done much. I've done preschool and tried to do some mom things, but mostly I have just sat or slept. I hate that. It's so foreign to me. When I began this process, I was thinking that I could still continue my year of crafting like I had planned. But the thought of getting everything out and then having to clean it up again does not sound like fun. I really would take 2 more years as PTA president over this whole cancer biz, hands down. No contest, and that was hard work. Tomorrow I go in for another PET scan. Do you want to know what my dream is? It's a big one. One I just might need a fairy godmother for. Here it is. I dream that the PET scan will show no signs of cancer. My doctor will call me and say, guess what? I think we can skip the next round of chemo and just go straight to surgery and radiation. Wouldn't that be lovely? There have been miracles all along this journey, and I would love to count that as another miracle. But I think it's probably just going to stay a dream. I had to go in for some blood work today, and while I was waiting to talk to the doctor, I heard someone ring the chemo bell. There's a bell in the chemo room that you get to ring after your last treatment is completed. It took all I could do to not cry. I want to ring that bell so badly.